Making better grandma.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Making Better Grown-Ups, the podcast. We took a huge sabbatical as needed, but we're ready to start season 2 with you and my first guest.
Honored to be here.
If you do not know who this good-looking man is, this is my husband of 15 years, and we've been together for
18?
Bingo. He gets to stay on the show. Wonderful. So we are so excited to start this season 2 with our guest spots coming in. There will be some more storytelling from just me alone, going solo. But this is all new to us. If y'all saw what just happened for the last, 45 minutes, we actually were fully prepared last night.
Yes, fully prepared. It was the first time doing 2 mics, so I ran through all the scenarios last night. Everything good. We come in today and nothing works.
Nothing works. And it came down to, get it, wait for it, 45 minutes, sweating, no shirt on, might I add, doing all the technicalities of this podcast. And he calls his friend, phone a friend, and all of a sudden, he just clicks one button out of the bajillions of things that we could change, which we tried on the computer. If you saw the computer right now and you're not a techie, you'd be like, this is harder than I thought. And this is when you call your friend, you take a deep breath, and you find the button. You literally had to push a button.
Can I call my friend right now? Because I'm panicking right now.
I asked him this morning, how are you feeling? He's like, I'm fine. I'm like, wait till the microphone is in your face and the light is in your eyeballs and there's nobody you're talking to but a camera, and all of a sudden your jitters come.
That's it.
Good thing you have a good host.
I have a great host of 18 years.
So we are here today to talk about something really near and dear to our heart, and it is the story of us.
Aww.
Aw. Is there a lot of awes? Did you just say aw?
Cue the awes.
Y'all cue the awes. And this is an untold story. I have told very few people this story because the way that we met might have been a little unconventional, I would say. And
Very.
so there's a lot of people who think they know the details, and some of them are right and some of them are wrong. So we're here 18 years later, which I remember when we first met. I said, one day, even though we're highly misunderstood in this very moment, people will hear our story way later and go, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's a unique and unconventional story. And for sure, like, since no one was in our daily lives, it's easy to take a different perspective if you see it on the
AKA, they be judging. Let's just be real. They be judging. So I have to kind of give backstory. The thing about all my podcasts, and by the way, I didn't think we would air this on a podcast. I thought maybe we'd tell our parents one day the whole story and they'd be like, oh my God, that's amazing.
So they have to tune in.
They have to tune in to hear it, which my parents have been, God bless them. But our story is unconventional. This is all true. We are not fabricating this or extending the truth. We did not plot this, plan this. We did not rehearse this. I'm scared as crap because this is the first podcast. I have not had a script. I have no paper. I have no guide. I don't know. We're just flowing.
This is true. It is normally her coming in prepared in the sense of having a long sheet of paper that she wrote. That's
6 pages.
That is off camera. But she can't see it sometimes because she writes in pencil. But getting better. And then it's me calming her down and keeping her there. Now she's doing that for me. So it's a little different.
It's a little different. And we're recording ourselves. So we're having to look at the computer, make sure the audio is going. So if you're watching us on YouTube and you're like, why do they look crazy? Well, because we are. We're trying to do this on our own.
I have my computer here, timer here, it's all the things I normally have off camera, but now I'm having to look at them.
Yeah, so all the excuses are on the table. Now you know why we semi-suck, but we're vulnerable, we're real people, and all we're going to do is just sit here and tell you the untold story of our love.
So backstory. Go ahead.
All right, so before Jeff, okay, so my husband's name is Jeff. This is Jeff. Jeffrey is how I say it. I was actually married before Jeff. Sometimes I forget that. That's how long it's been. I remember my son, who I share with Jeff, said one day, I said something about, well, the last time I was married, and he's like, what? You've been married before? And I was like, oh God, I forgot. And recently, as I've been digging into my past and doing a lot of healing work, I realized that, oh my God, I bury a lot of stuff in my life. I just bury it really deep and I pretend it isn't there. It didn't exist. But healing work is not like that. You have to go into the past and you have to find the dirty, nitty-gritty details. But even though it's painful, it's with the right mindset, you really start to pull out the gems and the lessons. And so as I've been doing that on this podcast with all of you through the first 7 episodes, it's been very, very cathartic and also very exhausting, hence why I took a sabbatical. It was literally like the hardest thing I've done as an adult. Adulting and growing up is hard. And so I'm really proud of this story because it's birthed out of kind of a darkness for me. And Jeff was a light. So let me just bring you back to a little bit darker time in my life. And I don't, how do I say this? I don't say any of this to hurt anyone. This is my lens. This is my perspective. This is just how I remember things. It doesn't mean that I am right or I'm wrong. This is just my reality. And I know with time, memories change, right? And hopefully, if you're a growth mindset kind of person and you're always bettering yourself, you start to see the hardest and darkest part of your life as a lesson or a gift rather than a punishment or something that happened to you. You start to see it happening for you and how God weaves himself in and out of your story, in and out of your darkness and your light, and shows you who you are and who you're becoming. And so as I looked back before we decided to do this, I remembered I was married before. Whoops. Forgot to tell the world that. Forgot to tell my children that. It was a 4-year marriage. It wasn't a real long marriage. And we were EDM producers. That's what brought us together, was music. And so we were writing music and cutting records and playing on stages. And God, it was an awesome time in my life. If y'all know anything, you know I love a stage. I love singing on stages. I love playing on stages. I love watching my son this week on a stage for the first time, and he got to experience what that was like. I was like, oh my gosh, I was living through him on a stage. This is my stage. My classroom was my stage. And it was a different kind of vibe, though, because I can honestly say out of my entire music career with my ex-husband, I only played second fiddle, like not I was the opening act, not the main act, one time. And it was to Tiesto.
Let's not go on that tangent now. That's a separate story, but yeah. But you are the main act.
Well, that's why I married you. So I loved being on stage, and that was what our relationship kind of really was. It was convenient. It was fun. We were making music. We went on a little tour, and it was a really, really, really awesome time in my life where I was able to express myself. But it also had like a dark side to it where I was not really happy. It wasn't like torturous or bad or super abusive or anything like that. I don't want to make claims like that. But there was brought to me from my ex-husband to my attention that he had been unfaithful to me for a very, very long period of time with someone really, really, really close to him that I knew. And it was heartbreaking, and I had to make a decision. Do you stay and forgive, or do you go and forget? It was one of those times I was sitting in a parking lot talking to my best friends, and they were like, we're not going to tell you what to do, but you got to make a decision. And I was like, there's children involved. You know, he had a child, I had a child, and they were best friends. And I was like, I could never do this to them. I have to be the bigger person. I mean, he came to me and told me to my face. That's a good person, right? He didn't hide it from me. He hid it from me for a year. Either way. I get emotional. It's kind of making me anxious talking about it now.
Yeah, I mean, so for the viewers, most podcasts that she's done, this is what happens, right? It's a part of the process that as you're telling these stories, it brings back, you know, some of the emotions and all the feelings. And I sit there and watch it, and you know, like I even get emotional. But I think what you said earlier, though, is like that's part of the healing work. It's like kind of healing from these stories and sharing the lessons is kind of how you move on past.
And the fear that you're going to hurt their feelings if you talk about them.
Yeah.
Because they're characters in your story. But I just keep reminding myself, this is my story. This is my lesson. This is what I learned. This is what I went through. It's not that anyone was a a good
And
character, a bad character, and everyone has a redemption story. Everyone has the right to
yeah.
change their life and better themselves. But the role he played in my life, um, I feel like I was used really, really bad. And I feel like the man in the relationship had to do a lot of stuff that he was just incapable of choosing to do. And so I just didn't have a lot of security. And as we learned, security is the number one need of a woman. I did not have that. I still depended on my dad quite a bit for security. So after the infidelity, and I just decided, you know what? Let's just clean slate. Let's start doing crazy stuff. So we started thinking about building a house, buying a house, and just starting a new life. During that time, we were going on a small southern tour of the US. And that's when I actually met this guy named Jeffrey. So you can see where you're like, oh, there it is. That's what everyone thinks.
I know it's an easy, you know, conception, I guess, to fall into.
Yeah, like, ooh, there they go. So we're here to set the record straight for ourselves because we promised we would tell this story one day.
Yes.
And we really just want to show you how freaking cool this story is, how we know God was in the center of this story, because this is not coincidental.
No.
We are going to hide names from you. We're not going to use names out loud, okay? But just for purposes of respect, I'm not
Yeah.
here to shame anyone or make anyone feel bad. So while I was on this tour, I was in the forgiving state of my husband cheating on me with his best friend. I'll leave that up to you to think about what a best friend is, okay? I had forgiven him. We were moving on. We were in the works of building a home, and we were on this leg of a southern tour, okay? Setting the stage for you, no pun intended. All right, so now I had rules when we play shows.
Okay, rule number
Okay.
one.
Well, I'm not going to go down, but one of the rules was I never mingled before the show. You never saw my face until I entered the stage.
That's a good rule.
Okay. The second rule, I guess I'm going to do two. All right, here we go. 1, 2, 3. The second rule was I never did anything while I was at a show. Like you would never see me having a drink before or after.
It's because you were working.
Yeah,
And
it
you-
was a
and
job.
It was a
It was a
job.
job. And I really prided myself while they were tearing down sets and stuff to sit outside, usually on a curb or somewhere, and I'd sign autographs. People would bring their own records. We were pressing records back then. Yes, DJs played our
I
records.
was going to say,
So just to be clear, I was not a DJ. You're a DJ.
yes. DJs play other people's music. Artists write music.
Yeah, I write the music. So when people would come to our show, they actually watched me play my own music. But it was dance music. I know. You think a DJ plays dance music, blah, 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 blah. It's called a live PA. So we do live PAs. And so I just had rules. And one of the rules was don't drink. And I'm going to take a drink of water right now. Okay. So minding these rules, I'm in southern Louisiana in Baton Rouge.
Baton Rouge.
Just another show, another gig. It's really hot. It's really humid. And it's terrible. It's a terrible, terrible. For a girl who needs to have good hair and makeup, it was terrible.
I think it was summer or close to summer too. So yeah,
It's just miserable in Louisiana all the time. And after the show, which it was a really good show.
It was a really good show.
It was a really good show. It was a small venue. It wasn't massive. The cool thing about our shows is people came to see us. There was a couple of people like this guy who just happened to be there and learn who we were. But for the most part, people knew who we were. They showed up with their shirts, their records. They printed off stuff and would autograph it. And it was really fun. And that was the lucky life, man. It was lucky. The music was dope. And do you think I'm not going to share the music with you? Oh, no. I'm going to share the music with you at the end of this podcast. So make sure you wait till the end and I'll blast you with my bass lines, okay? So after the show in Baton Rouge, this is where the story begins.
First, let me just explain this point because you kind of led into it, right? So my friend at the time was a promoter, and he actually booked them at this venue. And I would usually go to his shows because, I mean, he's my friend, and I'm going to support him. But I found out that they did break beats, and I was not into break beats at the time, right? So, thank you. So I was probably not going to go, to be frank. Like, I was just not my jam. And then I had another friend at the time that actually encouraged him to book them. play a record for me. And I was blown away by this track. I was like, whoa, 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 wait, what? Like that's breakbeats? Like, yeah, dude. He's like, this is what they play. This is what they write. So I was like, okay, I'll go. I'll be there. So this one track that I'm sure she'll share is kind of what won me over and
Got you to my show?
got you to this, or got me to the show.
Got him to my show. Woo, woo. So play the show. It's going really, really well. And after the show, there's not a lot of signing going on. There's not a lot of that stuff because apparently there was a lot of people who didn't know I was. And I went outside to get some fresh air because I was hot as hell. Again, it was like one hot versus another hot. Hot inside the building or hot outside the building. So I decided to get hot outside of the building. All right, so I'm outside getting fresh air in the humidity. Yes. And there's like a small crowd. It's like a little awning or something that hangs off the building. If my memory serves me well, he'll correct me probably.
Oh, that's great.
But there's just not that many people out there. And I had just been bombarded by this man at the bar. And the man at the bar was like, you have to have a drink. And I was like, no, I really don't. He's like, no, you have to. That was the most killer show ever. And I was like, I can't. I don't drink at shows. He's like, for me? It's your last show? It wasn't the last show. We had another one. But I was like, okay, whatever. And I actually took a drink from the guy. So I go outside and I'm holding a drink. I'm breaking all the rules right now. And there's a little group of people. And I'm not exactly sure exactly how this went.
I was in the parking lot with my friend because he went and get something in his truck and we were walking back inside.
Okay.
And then I ran into you.
Okay. Who, this could be a story. Who started the conversation?
She started the conversation.
I did?
You did, because you instantly saw my hair and commented. And I don't exactly remember the exact phrase, but I'm sure it was, "What's up with your hair? Who are you trying to be like?"
Mind you, I don't drink at shows.
It
gave me a little liquid courage, I guess. His hair was very unique. And I know you're probably not going to be able to see that from here, but if we can zoom in just a little bit, it was blonde tipped, going in 500 directions. It was dark rooted, and it looked exactly like an artist that I knew who was very, very famous in the EDM dance music world for a very long time. It's an iconic hair. So I knew right when I saw this kid, I was like, you trying to look like your hero? And I was kind of, if I remember, I think I was kind of joking, but I was kind of serious. I was like, dude, what's up with your hair?
I think you were, because I think like you were trying to be like, why are you trying to be like someone else? And then like you had a history as well too.
Mm-hmm.
And so you were curious of, why the deep infatuation, let's say, with this particular
It was so funny, y'all. His hair, it was, I don't know how much time did you spend on the hair? Seriously?
Too much time. And the other part is I didn't have the right hair type for that haircut. So like it, kind of requires someone with a little finer, straighter hair. Here I am with very thick hair in Southern Louisiana where the humidity is 95. And so it's just like, and I mean like sweating, it just, yeah. So,
but he was super buff and tan, and like he was big. He was big at the time, and his hair was going in 500 directions. So when he's coming at you, obviously you see him, right? And so I just remember kind of like knocking his hair, like, dude, like what's up with your hair? Like, are you trying to look like so and so? I'm not gonna say his name on here to protect people, but I was like, you trying to look like so and so? And he's like, yeah, he's like my idol. And I straight up looked at this kid I just met, and I was like, oh yeah? Why? And he gives me this long reason of why. He's written the best trance music of all time.
Godfather of trance. He worked with all
you own all the records.
Yeah, all
all the albums. You know them in order.
He's a musical genius.
Yeah. And I just I don't know. I just felt like I should tell him. I just looked at him and I said, I ghostwrite his music. Mic drop.
And honestly, I was so novice at the time. I didn't even know what ghostwriting even meant, to be honest. I was like, what do you mean?
So for those who are like Jeff, ghostwriting means that you are paid and you have an NDA, meaning you cannot speak about what you're doing, and you're writing music for another artist. And it can go as easy as pressing a record. It can go as easy as I produced music that they used on an album. It could be anything really, but the whole point of ghostwriting is that no one ever knows that you did it.
Right. It's like some some artists today actually write music for other artists and it's credited and known. Like, Ryan Tedder of like One Republic wrote
Yeah.
this song for Beyonce. It's fully credited. That's not ghostwriting. Ghostwriting is you don't know.
Yeah. And we had a very distinct sound. Like, so it was really hard for us to ghostwrite because the point of ghostwriting is you have to sound like someone else. But the artist that chose us was like, hey, you're close enough that like I'll pay you a lot of money if you can help me out during a hard time. Because he was going through a really personal hard time for a few years. And so we were like, hey, we need money. We were making music out of a bedroom in his grandmother's house. It wasn't like we were living in a home and like, no, we were in the bedroom and that was my house, was the bedroom. And so yeah, we were like, we'll take the money. So we were ghostwriting. So that was my mic drop on Jeff. I was like, I've been writing the music of your hero.
And then I instantly went down all the rabbit trails because this artist has been writing music for a long time. So I'm like, wait. When? Like, because I'm like, if you crush my dreams of this one album and you wrote that album, like I
was like, whoa, bro. We're not going back to 1996. Like, we're talking like in the last 2 years. And he's like, oh, like so relieved. But then he's like, but like what? And I was like, dude, we could be here all day. I listed like, I think maybe 2 things. And he's like, what? And it's like his curiosity was just like, it was unhinged at that point. He's like, okay. So he was going like true Jeff. Now that I know Jeff, I'm like, this is true Jeff. He wants to go through everything sequentially, double check it, cross check it, whatever. And I was like, anyways, I gotta go. That was fun. Nice to meet you. Side hug, whatever. I don't even remember how I left. I just remember I had to leave.
Right.
Like a car was coming to pick me up. Something was happening where the artist is leaving the building. And I think the part that we just forgot, this is so funny. This is funny. This is no script. When I first met you and we were talking after I insulted your hair, you know what I'm about to say?
I don't actually.
I said, oh, so you're a fan?
Oh, don't ever do this. I said, actually, I never even heard of you until like tonight when my friend, played a record and I came to the show. So I actually was not a fan.
Isn't that so funny? I was like, you should lie. You should lie next time. He's like, yeah. But your music was really good. And I'm like, yeah, bro. Okay.
So I thought like that was a very premium compliment, call it, where like I didn't know, but now I do. And whoa, but yeah.
No, he's not a good liar. So even if you try to lie, but either way, I remember thinking you should just flat out lie about that and be like, oh yeah, I own a lot of records. Yeah. Big fan. But no, he's like, nope, never knew about you. And I was like, dude, I gotta go. You're funny. And one of the reasons for this podcast, one of the slogans of this podcast was based on what you said to me as I walked away from the first time I ever met you at a show. Do you remember what it was?
I said, we will finish this conversation because I had a lot more to ask and inquire.
I literally dropped a mic. Boom. It was like, I'm out. Peace out, homie. And he was like, what? So when people like, oh, y'all met while you were still married on your tour. We're like, no, like he wasn't even my fan. Know who I was or where I lived. He didn't know nothing about me, which was hilarious. But the fact that you ended with, we will finish this conversation, ...
Because
I thought that was really interesting. You didn't just say goodbye.
Because it was, I don't remember the time scale, but I remember like from the moment seeing you outside and the car picking you up, it felt very, very short. Maybe it was long and the conversation was just that good.
Don't know.
But it was very short. And yeah, I just remember the short, spunky girl rocking my world and just like insulting me. But somehow like was just really intrigued. So I was like, yes, we will somehow continue to have this conversation.
Yeah. And so I think we found each other on AIM like many months later.
AOL.
It was a long time. It wasn't quickly.
Do you remember your screen name?
Angel Pop 79.
Meat Baby.
That's Meep with a P.
I don't know why.
Nobody knows what the hell it means. He has a name he doesn't understand. It's so funny. But either way, it was a long time after that you reached out and you're like, hey, I'm the guy from Louisiana. Do you remember me? I was like, oh, yeah. So anyways, we just would communicate on. That's how I proved to him that I actually had other music. So that was how we started the conversation again. And I was like, see, here's some proof. It wasn't like Snapchat where it can disappear. It's somewhere in the universe where we talked about my records and my ghostwriting, whatever. But I had to prove to him I was telling the truth. And I've done some pretty epic stuff that no one will ever know about, and I cannot even tell you on this podcast. Like big, 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 big stuff for someone else that got the credit. But you know what? At the time, the money was important, and it led me to literally, I think all of that time, I thank God that I did all of that work secretively for all that money, if it only meant to insult your hair and make you curious to find me on AOL months and months later. Maybe that was the whole point.
He's got quite the way of weaving a tapestry of events and to make a story,
It is.
right?
I think he's got a sense of humor for sure.
For
He
sure.
uses my true insults to bless me. So now we are, fast forward.
Yeah.
It is now October of 2004.
Mhm.
All right. So that was like a while later. Maybe it was like 8 months to a year later. I don't know. It was a while.
Mhm.
And we built the house. Remember I told you we were building a house and I was like avoiding the truth of my life. We built the house and we decided that we were going to have a house party. And a real house party where there's a DJ, there's alcohol, there's probably some weed and a lot of friends. Okay? And weed was not legal back then. We were ballers. Okay? We were we were the old schoolers.
No cap.
No cap. So I'm throwing this big house party and I'm inviting all my close friends and we were AOLing or whatever you call it, chatting. And I was like, yeah, I'm throwing this house party. It's really stressful. I'm trying to make sure I have a good lineup, have all the food and have all the people and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, oh, yeah. And I was like, how far are you from here? He's like, oh, it's like 9 or 10 hours. It's like, well, you're always welcome to come if you want to drive 9 or 10 hours, you know? And he was like, yeah, I'll think about that. Kind of like, yeah, you crazy. And I was like, well, it'd be really cool if you could come. And I don't remember what happened in your side.
So the other side of this is the friend that, helped encourage our mutual friend, the promoter, to book them. He moved to Houston for work, and his girlfriend still lived in Baton Rouge because she was finishing school. So somehow the topic of this house party came up, and Houston's like 4 hours? And she would, routinely make trips to Houston to go see him. So I was like, hey, by any chance is your girlfriend planning to come see you soon? He's like, yeah, she's coming this weekend. I was like, well, I casually got invited to Leah's housewarming party. And I mean, like, she knows my friend as well. And I was like, by chance, you want to go? And he was like, dude, that'd be awesome. So I just hopped in his girlfriend's car.
Because he was a real fan, by the way. The friend who wanted to drive his ass all the way around the state of Louisiana and Texas was actually a fan.
I was a fan, but more so a fan of Leah because I.
No.
Yeah.
The guy who gave you a ride. He was a real fan.
He was a real fan. So he wanted to go to like be in her presence.
Yeah.
I wanted to continue to find out more about what this chick has done.
Yeah. Like then he wants to like see the actual like things on my computer. Like he was like he's like a detective.
I was.
But either way, you talked them into driving your ass all the way from there to Kingdom Come. And I remember being at my house party and the music was really loud and the doorbell rings and someone comes to get me and they're like, some kid's here from Louisiana. And I was like, what?
Yes, because I don't think we told you we were coming because it was like one of those things like maybe we'll go, maybe we'll not. Because
well, there was a lot of things that had to go right for you to get there, considering you're asking a girlfriend of a friend to drive your ass 10 hours. So either way, I run to the door and he's standing at the door with his friend and the girlfriend. And he literally has a box in his hand and it's an iron. And he's like, hi. And I don't remember what exactly we said. And I was like, oh my God, you drove 10 hours? He's like, yeah. Happy housewarming, and hands me an iron. And I'm like, what is this? He goes, well, you told me you needed an iron. I said, I did? I said somewhere deep in our AIM chats, I must have said, I need an iron. I can't iron my clothes. And he remembered, which also is very indicative of my husband now. So he brings an iron and he comes into the party and I'm introducing him to like everybody that I know. And everybody there was at the time my closest knit friends. And out of there was probably like 50 people there?
I would say, yeah.
Something like that. What was your experience at the house party?
I'll be perfectly honest. When I walked in, I was intimidated because I was like, I don't know these people. And I assumed, I think like there were naturally other famous DJs and artists. So I was kind of like, whoa. I think I actually walked outside to go smoke weed. It's okay. We talked about it. I had a pass as well. And so I was outside smoking, I think, with one of your friends that I just met. And then she calls my phone and she's like, "Hey, where'd you go?" And I was like, "Oh, I just went outside." And she's like, "Oh, well, come back in because I want to show you more stuff and, and like meet more people." So then I walked back in and I'm, meeting as many people as I can, um, listening to music. I think your husband at the time had like some songs like pulled up and like people like were gathered around that. So it was just small pockets of, people talking, hanging out. And I distinctly like remember meeting, I think, two or three individuals that I just really connected with and really felt like, wow, like these are really genuine, nice, cool people. Fast forward is they turned out to be still today like some of your very best
My
friends.
lifelong friend.
Yes. So like crazy, like kind of coincidence there, like that I
You
found
gravitated.
I gravitated and found those people. But no, it was just like just a chill vibe where people just basically listening to music and talking.
And then the night went really, really quickly. And I remember one of the defining moments of this story. I'm just gonna like put it right here. If you're still here, hang on to your bootstraps, okay? So there has to be a defining moment in every relationship where you know when it's over in a divorce situation, okay? It's not it's not like you just wake up one day and you want a divorce. There's a lot of things that add up over time, right? And there's a lot of just gosh, how do I say it? Betrayal. Betrayal is really, 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 really hard to deal with. And this party, even though there was a boy named Jeffrey there who drove 10 hours with an iron in his hand to get to know me better as an artist, had nothing to do with why I decided to leave my husband. This next part of the story is why I decided to leave my husband. So, just to, I just feel like I have to be honest with you because you're my audience, and I don't want to sugarcoat this, and I don't want to shame anybody. But the betrayal was with another man. All right, that's really hard. That's really hard to deal with. It's hard to deal with. I'm sure if it was a female or it, I don't know. I really don't know. But in my situation, it was so outlandish and so far from reality to me that I felt like if I told anybody that, no one would believe me. And they definitely wouldn't believe me if I told them he told me. Like, who's going to believe a chick that says that? And so that's kind of why I hid his secrets. And recently, I've been realizing how many secrets I've been hiding from for other people over all these years, and it's just been really, really suppressing. And so this was the night where I found more evidence that would take me to the decision where I was going to put my foot down and just say, "This is it. That's all. We're done." The doorbell rings, people scurry, the music kills, and I'm like, "Oh shit, cops are here." We had just moved into the house a few months before that, so we're still newbies on the block. There's still houses being built. There's not that much going on, and there's like 60 cars outside, right? So notoriously, you're gonna have a cop come. So it got really quiet. The music killed, and I had a VHS tape, like the little handheld one that has the tiny little square tapes, and I was videoing everything, conversations. I was just going up to people and saying, "What's up?" I'm a documentarian. I have been my whole life, and so this party was no different. It's just the format was very different. We didn't have iPhones. Okay. This is before iPhones. This is before Facebook. So I'm going around with my VHS camera and I'm videoing everything. And the minute I hear the music kill, I knew in my brain weed at the time was illegal and that I had to make sure that that was not present in the room if a cop entered my house. I did not want to start my reputation in the neighborhood
Big
with
potheads.
some weed, even though I don't smoke weed. It's ironic. So I throw the camera on my bed, I turn the light off, and I ran. And I ran into the front room, and I walked outside, and I talked to the cop. And he's like, "What's going on here?" I was like, "We're having a housewarming party. We're brand new to the neighborhood. We've been watching the decibels. We are DJs. We kept the decibels at a certain legal rate so we would not cause any issues." He's like, "No, no, no. No one's called to complain." I was like, "Good. Good job, DJs." He's like, "I'm just here because there's a lot of cars. I'm just gonna make sure that everyone's being safe tonight." I was like, "Yes, we're being super safe and we will abide by the rules." And he's like, "Great, you'll have fun tonight." And then he walked off, shut the door, music up, party on, Wayne. And so we were really, really respectful of all the rules and being outside and not being loud and, being I don't know, grown-ups. And I had thrown that camera on the bed. I think like over an hour or more went by. And then I'm like, where's my camera? Where's my camera? And I could not find it. And finally I found it and it was on my bed behind a pillow. So I pick it up and it had been recording. And I was bummed because like, oh God, I only have one tape.
Wasted a tape.
It wasted a whole tape. No. But there was still time on the tape. And so I took the tape. The sun was getting ready to rise at this point, and I was outside videoing this jackass over here with my best friends. And they were all just having great conversations. And um, yeah, I don't remember when I viewed the tape. I feel like I viewed the
It
tape.
was a while longer because you told me, but I remember it was.
It wasn't too long though.
Oh,
No,
no?
no. It wasn't. I think it was right after you left.
Okay, maybe you just told me a while later. Yeah.
Yeah. Again, I hold secrets for people. It's not a good thing. So I'm rewatching the video and I'm like, oh, there's so and so, there's so and so, oh, there's so and so, there's so and so. And it's like so fun to relive because that's kind of what we do on our phones now, but we didn't have that. And I would rewatch it on the actual camcorder because you can't put the thing in anything. It's a squared thing. So I'm rewatching my little movie of my friends, and all of a sudden the camera goes black. Okay, the camera goes black, and all of a sudden it's silent because guess what? That's when the cops showed up. So I had thrown it on the bed. It had been hidden behind a pillow, and I had forgotten about it for well over an hour and a half, and it's just sitting there recording whatever's going on. You'll see that get a little bit brighter, get a little bit darker, get a little bit brighter because people would come and turn the lights on, come in and turn the lights off. But then it was just bright, and I was like, "What is going on?" And so I turned the volume all the way up on my camcorder. That's the sound effect. And I hear voices. And I can't see anybody because it's behind a pillow. And as I listen in and I lean in, I realize it was my husband at the time creating a plan and flirting with another woman who was invited by me and seeing what he could get away with in the future by inviting her into our marriage. That's when I was done. It wasn't because of Jeff. It wasn't because of anyone. It was because my heart finally broke. That was it. That was it. So the timeline went by pretty quickly after this. That was October, in the beginning of October. And I think it was by the end of October, maybe the beginning of November, about a month later, I revealed to him that I knew that he tried to do that. I told him about the tape. I told him, he's like, I thought you forgave me. I thought this was all going to be good. And I was like, I did forgive you, but you just kept going. I forgave him. I still forgive him, but I was disgusted. Like I didn't want to share my life or have a child or my bed or my future with someone that I couldn't trust. And I just felt like scammed, and betrayal is really hard to get over. So that's when I told him, I think it's time for me to leave you. I'm done. And immediately the first person he turns to was Jeff, the random guy that came 10 hours away. You have it, the hots for him. I'm going to kill him, basically, is how it went down. And so I just want to clear the record for myself and say it out loud for the first time that, while Jeff was coming into my life as this sweet, sweet guy who was considerate and kind and would listen to my crazy stories. And honestly, I think he was enamored by me. I think he thought, this girl's freaking nuts and crazy, but I just can't stop looking. I don't know what's going on. And that's the way our relationship started. But he was there for me when shit hit the fan. He was unbiased. He didn't know Curtis. He didn't even know me. He didn't know any of my friends. He didn't know anything about my family. He was just there to be the neutral friend that I needed. And that to me was a godsend. And I'm grateful for that. I'm so grateful. And I know how it looked from the outside, but I know what it really looked like from my lens. And I'm excited to tell you the story. So when I made that definitive decision, which was one of the hardest decisions I've ever made, I didn't realize what was coming after. Like, so many people would be affected by that decision.
Yes. And I think like the other part too of like what you just said, in my perspective, I think everyone that knows me knows that Jeff was not going into this thinking, can't wait to break up a marriage and steal this woman. Like there was zero intention at all. I just was purely fascinated at the, talent of this lady, and
Yeah,
I
I
was
think you
curious.
were really upset. You're like, "Shouldn't y'all try for the
I
music?" You're like,
literally,
"Shouldn't" you're
I
like
said that.
yeah.
I know I said that because the music was that good. I was like, "Wow, like, why would you, like, stop that?" So
Yeah, yeah, and I was like, "The music is the one thing that I'm gonna miss the most."
mm,
The fame, the the people, the fans, the opportunities that I was given. I mourned that more than anything, and I knew right then if that's what I'm mourning, then that's probably not the reason to stay.
yeah.
And I knew I was gonna break up not only my family, but
Mm,
I honestly wanted to hold his secret
mm,
so that it would be less dramatic.
mm.
But I think he thought I would blast him. I think he did. I think he thought I would tell the whole world and bring his name down, and I just wasn't, like, gonna do that. And so, I remember I just needed space. I was like, "I can't go to my mom and dad's because he'll come find me. I can't go to my friend's house, he'll find me." He knew everything about me, so I was like, "I've gotta go somewhere where I can literally be alone and process my thoughts because this is the biggest decision I've made in my whole life. Besides marriage, leaving a marriage is the second biggest decision I've made so far." And, I call up homeboy over here and I'm like, "Would you have space for me to stay somewhere on a couch or a room where I can just be?" And he was like, "Of course, yeah, whatever you need. I live with my parents. We'll find a way."
That
He
was a
was
fun
You were
conversation.
still in college.
I was finishing, yes. I was in my final semester, still living with my parents because I think me and all my roommates decided, like, just to commute that last, semester. So,
Thank
yeah.
God, because I had a place to stay. And I got to meet your whole family on that trip.
Yeah, so it was around Thanksgiving, and I think, like, things were just maybe you guys were all planning to go to your grandmother's, and, like, you just didn't wanna be in that environment, like,
I don't think so.
uh,
I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think they were going anywhere. I think
okay,
it was more like I told my family I was about to divorce my husband, and
that's
everyone's like, "You need to go to counseling.
that's
You
what it
need to
was.
go make this right. We'll come over and have a meeting all together." And I was like, "Y'all don't understand. I didn't want them to know what he did."
Yeah,
It all comes back to I did not want them to know. I had shame for his shame.
yeah.
I had shame that I forgave him and still stayed with him, and then he still was pulling it one over my head. I was so like, "No, no, no, I don't want anybody to know, no, 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 no. I
Well,
gotta figure out how I'm gonna do this, and I need a place to go." And so I called my mom and I called my best friend, and I just said, "I'm going to this guy named Jeff's parents' house. I'm not telling you where it's at. I'll tell you when I get there. It's really far away. I need time to think. There ain't nothing like a 10-hour drive that will make you think."
and
And so I drove there, and I think the majority of the time, if we weren't with your family playing what's that game?
washers.
Washers, which I won the first time.
Yeah. So, I mean, like,
I was crying most of the time.
it was, a situation to where, like, I didn't wanna get involved either, but I felt the situation was starting to be unsafe. I think you shared with me, like, some behavior that was happening to where you didn't feel safe, so I was like, "Sure," like, like, I would love to help, and yeah, it was Thanksgiving. We went to my family's house because all of my family would get together, like, for those holidays. We all played games like Washers and
It
Horseshoes,
was a good distraction.
and the funny thing is, right, is, she knows this, but, I have a cousin that for every family gathering would bring a girl, his girlfriend, and it was always a thing, and, it was always like, "Jeff, when are you gonna bring a girlfriend?" And I was like, "I don't like to bring my girls or like, around my family," and they were like, "Oh, like, so you have one?" I was like, "You'll never know," like, 'cause I mean, like, it just seemed like an intimate thing, and it's like, if she's there for this Christmas, but not the next one, oh, what happened? Whatever. So I never did. I never brought a girl to a family gathering, and here comes Leah to this one. So
Breaking the rules.
instantly people assume, "Well, Jeff, is this your girlfriend?" I was very honest, like, "No, no, she's a friend. She just needed a place to go," and, of course, my family, "A friend, sure." So it was a weird,
I'm
like,
not gonna lie.
setup.
I just told my mom we're gonna be podcasting
Right.
about the way that we met, and I was telling her, and she was like, "Oh yeah, when you like went for Thanksgiving to go sleep with that guy," and I was like, "Holy crap!"
Wh
I held his secret so tight, and I held my stuff together so well at that age that nobody knows what really happened.
Yeah.
I was putting myself in an environment where I was safe and supported and not judged and loved and distracted a little bit, knowing I'd have to go back to all hell.
And And that was, like, the crazy thing is, I mean, like, people that know Leah, right? Like, she fit in so well with my family, like, everybody loved her, she was cracking jokes at all my uncles, like, I mean, like, they dish it, and she was dishing it back, and everybody, like, just loved her, like, was, like, so enamored by her, and I was just like, yeah, like she's a great friend, like she's really cool, like I enjoy her company too. So like it was just a good trip given that circumstance. But I think you knew, and like you said, I think every time at the house it was somber and you were crying, and it was very sad because
I was grieving. I was scared. I didn't know what I was going to go back to. Eventually, he would find out that I was with you, and out of context, right? Like if
Mhm.
I was him, I would think the same thing. I would think, oh, she went to cheat on me with a guy. Like, of course, right? But I'm here to set the record straight. But that's not what happened. And so I just feel like every decision I was making was being driven by God. And I know that it might look crooked, it might look a little weird, um, but that's how I've always lived my life. And so I sat for 3 days with your family in your home and drove 10 hours back by myself to find a very, very angry man, who destroyed my belongings, destroyed cars, destroyed my house, took a bunch of stuff that wasn't his, um, because he had the opportunity because I was gone for 3 days. And so there were repercussions, not only emotionally for me, but like my stuff was destroyed. And that's when the narrative began that Leah left her husband for another man. That was the narrative. And I'll be honest with you guys, I never corrected anybody. I just said that's not true. And I just left it. I didn't go into details. I never did. I didn't want any more chaos than it had to be. I just wanted a divorce. I wanted it to be over. Because y'all have to realize I'd been dealing with that in my head for like a year and a half. It wasn't like I just had like an incident. It was like, feeling terrible today. Let's divorce. I had been dealing with this a long time. Everyone else was finding it out for the first time right then. So they're like, slow down, go get help, get counseling, and save your marriage. I'm like, no, you don't understand. I've been dealing with this for a really long time. Is it fixable? No, no, it's not. Is it this boy, Jeff? No, it has nothing to do with him. If he wasn't here, I'd still do the same thing. And you even told me that. You're like, listen, they're all gonna get the wrong idea. And do I have feelings for you?
Yeah.
I'm starting to have feelings for you.
After that trip, just
Yeah,
to be
he's
clear,
like
further
you
down
fit
the
in
road.
so well, and I was
Yeah.
like, yeah, but I'm married, and we had a lot of conversations where we knew what this could turn into.
Yeah.
We knew, but we're not idiots.
Yeah.
But I was still married, and you had real strict rules that you weren't crossing lines, and I was lost and confused. And by the time I got back home and I looked back in my ex-husband's eyes, I knew in that moment I can't be with this man anymore.
Mm.
And he was aggressive, very aggressive, and that's all I'm going to say. And I just went to my dad and I just said, I got to do this. And my dad was like, I don't understand how you can't fix it. I've been married to your mother for 5,000 years. And that's when we decided to go to the courthouse and next to the courthouse and meet with the attorney. And I remember, I'll keep this short because I want another podcast, but I had to finally say it out loud in front of my dad. That was the most painful, embarrassing experience. And I didn't even do it. I still don't get why I held it for so long. But either way, I had to say it out loud and to my father, and that was humiliating and heartbreaking. And in another podcast, I'll give you the details of what went down there. But that's when it began. And when the divorce began, the separation started, and that's when you and I started communicating a whole lot more.
Yeah, and to be clear too, it was just us talking. Like there still like wasn't a strong intention. Great, that's out the way. Like now we can continue. No, like I mean, in my perspective, right, is here's a woman that just went through something very traumatic, like, and I, treaded very cautiously. But yes, you're absolutely right. Is like whenever like we felt things like started to grow stronger, and I think it was right as you were divorcing, right? Like it was like we started like to kind of see a spark, right? Like and something's going on. I very clearly asked you, like, hey, if I hung up the phone and never talked to you again, I need you to be clear and honest with me that you would
Making the
still
same decisions.
carry on with this decision because, you know, who wants the guilt of after this is all played out, starting a relationship and then if it didn't work out,
Or even if it did,
or even if it
that
did,
it
like
came out of
living with that, right?
what is the word? Adultery,
Right.
right? We didn't want to birth a relationship out of adultery,
Right.
and so we were treading lightly,
Fair.
but there was no intention ever.
Mhm.
Like I was making decisions, and I had a good friend,
Yeah.
and then after I made the decision, I had a good friend, and then after it just started to build. I started being like, "Man, this guy's really here for me," and it wasn't like I was like, "I'm so in love." It's like not like that. It was a really, 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 really long courting, and you were still 10 hours away. And then, I needed a lot of support because I now had nobody, no friends, no nothing besides, my best friends. And I made my new best friend in you and just confided everything in you. And that's when we would start driving, 10 hours one way to see each other for 24 hours. Then you drive back and whatever. And we started courting each other. But
Yeah.
we courted each other for like 10 months, 10 hours away.
Long time, yeah. And I mean, I think the next time that we actually saw each other was my graduation too. Like it was a long like process of talking on AIM and phone calls when
They cost money.
when minutes cost money.
Oh, shoot. I forgot about
And we had some very large phone
like
bills.
$300 and $400 phone bills.
That yeah, I mean, like you paid yours, my parents paid mine, so
I like them young. But AIM is one thing, but sometimes you need to call and cry and like
Yeah.
just dish.
Yeah.
But I think after a couple of months, that's when we decided that we were going to actually like court each other. But
Yeah.
I remember having this conversation with you where I said, if we're going to do this, it's going to look very bad
Right.
because it's so close to me leaving my husband at the time that people are going to make judgments of us and they're going to assume so much about us and we're going to be misunderstood.
And I just knew she was worth it.
And you always made sure I knew that you weren't going anywhere. Like that you would never let anybody harm me because I was being harmed and that you would never force me to make decisions. You were very, 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 very clear you were not breaking up a marriage and that you wanted me to be very clear in my decisions. And I was very, very clear because of that tape on that bed that night. And it's proof. And I never told him about that. And I never showed him that. Again, I don't know why. I hold people's secrets. But now it's not a secret. It's all out there.
Mm.
And I'm just so grateful, even in like muck and mess and divorce and whatever, lies and cheating and God, so much that God still curated a path where we would cross paths. And I was willing to give up, y'all, a career. I gave up a career, a very successful music career, not for him, for a new life. And to this day, I have not spoken to him, to his family, to his child. It is completely 100% cut off. It was what he chose, and I chose to honor that, even though I was hurt so badly. But I think it was the best thing for me to move forward, have a clean slate, which is what I wanted. And so I don't really know what happened after that, but super glad you had shitty hair hanging outside the club that night.
Oh, the hair. Yeah. It was definitely the hair and that connection. That's the weird part, right? Or the God part, let's just be honest, right? Is that like something like so small like that would ignite like this spark like that just continued to grow, right? And I mean like another story like that we forgot to talk about, right? Is
I feel like this is this is
There-
what's going to seal the deal for our story. This was that you needed one more confirmation that I was the right woman because face it, you just heard the whole story. We were coming out of some dark shit. This is some dark shit. We were trying to start a relationship, hopefully, maybe. And so I think he was just looking for one more confirmation because I know my husband, he needs like 20 confirmations that this is the right decision. And no one could give him advice because he didn't want to go, hey, so I'm dating a girl who's divorcing. Like he didn't want to ask anybody. So I feel like God gave him one more confirmation to be like, she's the one. Tell him the story. It's great.
And just before that though, is like just like to give the other perspective is, I was graduating college. I did not know what I was going to do with my life. And so like in a sense I needed her too because like I was in a place where it's like holy crap, like what's next for me? Like how do I grow up? Like how do I do this? And like so like just like
I know how to grow up. I'm going to make a podcast 20 years later all about it.
So like just to play both sides is I felt like we both kind of like needed each other.
Yeah, for different
In a sense,
reasons.
like,
And
for different
you needed courage to leave your state, which he ended up moving to Texas for me
Yeah.
many months later, right? It's
Yeah.
a whole other podcast.
That's a whole nother one.
This
But
is
anyway,
just how we met, right? So I think the confirmation of those stories is just really awesome.
the final confirmation, right, is there's a video game that me and my best friend would always play. And
It's an EA Sports video game.
EA Sports video game. And I
It's,
mean, like
it's
sports game,
legit.
it would take, a long time to play the game. And so to protect like some of the things, I'm keeping this very vague, but I I distinctly remember like sitting there playing the game and just like being enamored with like the music. I was like, whoa, like this is really cool video game music. And then most of my like other friends down there, I'm like, yeah, I was like, no, like listen to it. Like it's like dynamic, like it's deep and it has like like these counter melt. Like I was like, it's really cool. Like, and I'm just going on and on and on about it. And like I distinctly remember like asking my friend like for like the cassette that the disc came in because this is original PlayStation, like the original disc games, right? And so I flipped over the cover and I'm reading through the credits and I say, "Oh, music by," and it's the same
Your
art.
idol.
It's by my idol. So I'm like,
Duh.
of course that makes sense. That's why I like it so much. It's written by my idol. Well, fast forward, I would then realize that this is the same idol that she would ghostwrite for.
And you asked.
Oh, and I asked very clearly, did you write that? And she said yes. And it was like mind blown because I remember just harping on it so much with my friends and like just being so like taken by how this was like again a a huge like jump in video game music. I was like, wow, like someone actually took that leap to do that.
It was like very intellectual.
Very like
Yeah.
not so tinkery, like not so
Because someone
simple.
hired someone to write game music that's never played a video game. And I was like, you're going to get something weird.
So it was in that moment that I remember the conversation when I first physically meeting her and saying that I wasn't a fan, and little did I realize I was a fan before I even knew you.
How do you like them cookies? God is cool.
God, it's really cool.
God is so cool. And it was a really great video game. It was really great music. And so what's really awesome is just a few years ago, he found out overseas that they made a soundtrack album of the video game, and he gifted it to me in my stocking. Isn't that crazy? All the way back from 2005. So we love full circle moments. We're proud of our story. I'm proud of us that we're actually doing this because I remember when you were only like 22 years old and I was telling you one day we're going to get to tell our whole truth. And it's going to be shocking to a lot of people because they thought that we were just out there running amok. And really, we were being very strategic and we're being very intentional for being so young and going through a hard start. But I'm super proud of us.
I am too, and I'm proud to have known you because you've made me a better grown up.
Oh.
And we will still continue this conversation.
I hope so. Yeah. So here's me and Jeff as noobs. If you can see this. Very new.
Oh yeah, check out the Hollister shirt and I think a Hollister hat as well. Yeah.
Yeah, he was rocking it. He was hiding his hair because he knew what I thought about it. You can see the tip of it. It was a little blonde there going on. He got rid of the blonde soon after that and started a fresh haircut where it went down in the front and was like really working it for me. I was driving a car that he called a van, and I went and got a sporty car. I mean, we were making big moves for each other. We were trying to impress each other so much. But in the end, almost 20 years later, it was the right decision before you, and it was the right decision to choose you.
I agree.
Dibs. So there you have it. There's the crazy epic story of how once upon a time my husband didn't even know who I was and ended up being my long-term, lifelong fan and did not even know it. Isn't that nuts?
I'm still a fan.
You better be.
Wow, what a story to come back to podcasting, right?
I know. And no script, no paper. This is really odd. I don't know what to do with my hands, but lots of stuff coming in the future. We're really excited for season 2. We're deep diving into great storytelling and learning from me and other people. So thank you so much for spending this hour with us and just taking a little time to get to know us better behind the mic. And be sure to check us out on YouTube to watch us in person and look at our faces. You can also check us out on all of the podcasting channels, which you can reach at makingbettergrownups.com. And subscribe there on our email list to be notified when we're going live. Also, we love to send you a newsletter full of notes and actionable things to put into your life. And also we give you a summary of what the podcast is about. So if you're coming in a day or two late, you'll know what you're jumping into. So if you're feeling the vibes, jump on patreon.com/makingbettergrownups and give us your money.
I just want to say thank you to the couple of Patreons that we do have.
Thank you so much.
You know who you are. Thank you.
Yeah, donating monthly to the podcast really does help us. We've got new lights, we've got new setup, we've got a new mic, we got a new man here. Your money's going really far. So anything that you can do to help the podcast stay alive would be great. And we are so happy to be back. And we look forward to seeing you next week. And for God's sake, grow up, people.
Grow up.
Making better grow up. Grow up, people. That's the wrap.
Out of control.